he and Helen have been having a tete-a-tete. Council.
I can put it on.
Yeah, you record. Yes.
No,
please.
What?
Please.
Okay. Let's keep this
She says no.
Yes.
Yeah, non-disclosure, please. Yeah, you don't have the legal license.
Said, privacy is priceless.
Edudzi is the director of the legal team of the National Democratic Congress. Council, good morning. Welcome. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning to your good self, Lady Ampofo, and your cherished listeners and our viewers as well.
Absolutely.
Monday is always refreshing. Want to start the week well. Yeah.
The Speaker of Parliament and the President have been at each other because of a bill that was unanimously passed by 275 parliamentarians, which is supposed to bring us the proper sexual and human rights and all those things, values and everything else. What are your own views? I've heard a lot of legal arguments going around, but you are the head of the legal team of the NDC. What do you think?
So as the head of the legal directorate of our party, we took special interest in this particular law, as at that time, bill. It's still bill. And the reasoning is that our party believes in the culture, religion, or the religious groups or affiliations of this country, and we've never run away from it. We also do recognize the varied cultural norms, practices in this country. Now, having done a perusal of the various cultures and religion or religious affiliations in this country, there is nowhere that there is a certain acceptance of a man marrying a man, a woman marrying a woman. Ghana recognizes that, yes, we have diversity, cultural beliefs, among other things.
Right.
But this one, there appears to be absolute frown, be it Ewe, Akan, Ga, or whatever culture, either Dagomba, Equiapem, or whatever. There's that level of abhorrence for that particular conduct. Ghana has a very large Christian population. And the last time I checked the Bible, it doesn't look like it is endorsed. In fact, if you read the Holy Quran, Surah 7, verses 80 to 84, Prophet Muhammad, may peace be unto his name, admonishes all Muslims not to go the way of the people of Lot. And you remember the biblical story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Recognizing these cultural and religious matters, the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, on the 28th day of February, passed the Family Value Bill. Now, if you look at Article 106, Clause 7, 8 to 9, it says that our president, upon having been presented with a bill so passed by Parliament, reserved two important constitutional responsibility.
Right.
Assent or refuse to assent. Now remember that per the 1992 Constitution, the legislative power resides in Parliament. Now the Constitution recognizes what a U.S. Supreme Court said, separateness but interdependence. So whereas you have three co-equal arms of government, the learning is that they should be separate but interdependent.
Right.
And so even in the lawmaking process, there are two originating processes, a bill emanating from the president or a private member's bill.
Right.
These two, it originates. Then it goes to Parliament, first, second, third, and whatever. And where it is not possible, the Constitution allows for certificate of urgency and what ought to be done. Now, always bear this in mind. The legislative function in lawmaking does not end or terminate with the passage of the law by Parliament. No. Even as Parliament is done passing the law, it has the constitutional responsibility of presenting it to the president. Constitutional. Now, even when it goes to the president and the president has assented to the law, it doesn't end. Do you know what happens? No. After the president is done assenting, he would have to transmit it back to Parliament. Now, Parliament is going to ensure that the law is in it proper, everything is done, and proceeds to give it numbering, and after that, takes it for Gazette notification.
But then you read what the secretary to the president
So I'm
read.
coming there.
That, look, don't bring it because there's something happening in court. So slow down.
In fact, I would like you to go online. Look at Article 106, Clause 7, to enrich the discussion.
Okay.
If you read Article 106, Clause 7, the Constitution says Parliament shall present.
Right.
It didn't say Parliament may present. It is not optional. It's a constitutional imperative.
Okay, so Article 106 of the 1992 Constitution, the power of Parliament to make laws shall be exercised by bills passed by Parliament and assented to by the President. 2, no bill other than such a bill as is referred to in paragraph A of Article 108 of this Constitution shall be introduced in Parliament unless it is accompanied by an explanatory memorandum setting out in detail the policy and principles of the bill and defects of the existing law, the remedies proposed to deal with those defects and the necessity for its introduction, and B, it has been published in the Gazette at least 14 days before the date of its introduction in Parliament. 3, a bill affecting the institution of chieftaincy shall not be introduced in Parliament without prior reference to the National House of Chiefs. 4, whenever a bill is read, first time in Parliament, it shall be referred to the appropriate committee appointed under Article 103 of this Constitution, which shall examine.
Let's go to 7.
Okay, I'll come to it in a bit. Shall examine the bill in detail and make all such inquiries in relation to it as a committee considered expedient or necessary. 7, where a bill passed by Parliament is presented to the President for assent, shall signify within 7 days after the presentation.
Pause here. It says Parliament presented.
Right.
So at this point, Parliament is still in the business of what? Presenting.
But the President's Secretary says don't.
Now, you see, that statement from the President's Secretary is completely contemptuous of Parliament as a countervailing force in our democratic experiment. Our President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and his executive secretary have not learned anything from the benefit of history.
Why?
You see, we were in this country where arrogantly, in a very unconstitutional manner, this same executive secretary put on that green paper a letter instructing Domelevo to proceed on leave. When Domelevo responded to the government that they did not have any set constitutional power to ask the head of an independent constitutional body to proceed on leave, Bedietu arrogantly responded to him by saying he, Domelevo, is not a lawyer and so does not understand the law.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Right.
It is that level of arrogance. That Nebuchadnezzar spirit. That is what resulted in a situation where the Supreme Court had the I don't know whether to say unfortunate or fortunate instance of having to describe the conduct of the president as unconstitutional. And I read.
The 77090.
I will read something. Upon careful examining the constitutional provisions, it is evident that Article 1872 confers upon the Auditor General the explicit power and duty to conduct so and so. Then it comes. Considering the provisions, we find merit in the plaintiff's argument that the concept of an acting Auditor General, a person designated or appointed not by the Auditor General, by the President or agent to assume and exercise the powers of so and so, is constitutionally untenable. This is the Supreme Court reprimanding the President. The Supreme Court proceeds further. In this case, the presidency failed to consider that the Auditor General Office, as the head of the audit service, form part of the independent constitutional bodies. Hence, the Auditor General cannot be compelled to proceed on leave by any authority, especially when the effect of the directive was to interfere with the performance of his constitutional mandate.
Bottom line,
the arrogance, the abuse of office, the impunity that the Akufo-Addo presidency has obtained that dubious distinction for must cease.
But then the argument is made that, look, allow the court processes to end.
Let me tell you, the Supreme Court of Ghana, in the year 2012, when the Electoral Commission decided to create the 45 new constituency, a young man by name Ranford France took the matter to the apex court of the land, the Supreme Court, in 2012. He brought an application for injunction to restrain Parliament from proceeding with its legislative power of ensuring that the 45 new constituencies mature. Guess what? The Supreme Court had something to say. And I just want to read the ruling of the Supreme Court in respect of this. And this is a decision rendered by the Supreme Court of Ghana. So I'll just read the concluding position. This is what it says. The conclusion I come to is that injunctions may not be used to interfere with the processes of Parliament. And as regards to its proceeding within its own walls, Parliament is completely privileged from judicial interventions.
So the President Secretary doesn't know this?
Question. It says, I want to read again. The conclusion I come to is that injunctions may not be used to interfere with the processes of Parliament. And like I indicated, the process of presenting the bill so passed to the President is a legislative function. It says that regards to its proceeding within its own walls, Parliament is completely privileged from judicial interventions, unquote. This is a decision coming from the apex courts of the land. What is the basis of Bediotis telling Parliament to cease and desist?
Do you think the President will ever sign their bill?
It is curious that a president who says he's made a personal pledge to God to build for him a national cathedral will be running away from signing the family value bill, strongly grounded in both Judeo-Christian and Islamic law. Curious.
So what this whole thing is to delay the process or to stop it?
And I'll give you further elucidation. On the 4th of March, our president met diplomats. And in this meeting with the diplomats, he gave the indication already that he's unable to assent to the bill. And the reasons he gave at that time was that he had become aware of 2 lawsuits filed relative to this matter, and therefore he was going to await the Supreme Court in making a determination.
That's correct.
Strangely, on the 4th, while the president was addressing those diplomats, there was only one pending suit, Amanda Odoe.
Right, against the speaker.
As of July 2023, Amanda Odoe had brought an injunction application against the speaker specifically. The Supreme Court unanimously dismissed the application and gave the indication that they were unable to injunct Parliament in proceeding with that legislative function. So, as at the 4th of March, when the president met the diplomat, there was no such injunction restraining him. 2, as at the 4th of March, 2024, Mr. Richard Delasky had not issued any writ whatsoever at the Supreme Court.
So what are you saying?
Question. What is it that the president knew on the 4th? Did he know that Richard Delasky was going to issue a writ?
How would he have known?
Is Richard Delasky an agent provocateur of the president?
Why do you say that?
Is Richard Delasky a surrogate of the president to provide him the pretext, the rules, as it were, to delay the signing of this bill?
He's a private member of society. He can always go to
So
court.
how come that the president knew, as at the 4th, that such a thing was going to happen?
The president has the benefit of national security, and
so
all
the
these
national
deep
security
protectors.
gave him the indication
I
that
don't
a
know, I'm just
private
saying.
person, Richard Delasky. You see, so the more you look at the conduct of the president, the more you see a certain duplicity, a certain hypocritical stand. First of all, I was a lawyer for the then minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, Okujeto Ablakwa, Mahama Yarga, when they led the minority to challenge the E-levy law at the Supreme Court.
Right.
I was the counsel.
Right.
At the time we issued the writ, right, the bill so passed had not been transmitted to the president yet.
So you were raising questions about it in court?
It was when we were in court, right, that the president assented to the E-levy law. Does it not cast our president as a hypocrite?
So
on that point, I wanted to ask, was there an injunction that was filed when you took the E-levy case to court?
I filed the injunction.
So there was an injunction?
Yes, I did. I argued. In fact, Godfrey Dami was on the other side when we argued.
So is that an injunction then to stop the legislative power of Parliament? Is that can you classify that as being an injunction
so the thing
to stop
is that
the work?
Parliament was in the works of a bill.
Yes.
And
towards
we
the
had
passage
even
of the-
challenged that the entire process of Parliament, the numbers that were used, the procedure that were adopted, and what have you, was problematic. So
Right.
we're challenging the constitutionality of the bill overall.
And you say while you were in court, the
Once we were
president
in
signed
court, that was when the president assented to the E-levy
to
law.
make it full law for
Yes.
its implementation by the
Yes.
GRA.
Yes.
And so you find it problematic that
Hypocritical, not problematic.
okay.
It casts the president as someone with that dubious distinction of duplicity. What principle is the president espousing? Is it the president that is lukewarm, blows hot and cold? Is he a president whose politics is grounded in convenience and no principle? What exactly is the body language of the president towards this?
I see.
And this, for me, are the fundamental issues that we need. You see, we are organizing a democracy. One of the things that had allowed the 1992 Constitution to endear itself to the people of this country, and for which reason it has lasted in excess of 30 years. And from 1951, this is the oldest constitution that we've had.
Right.
Nkrumah's constitution lasted for, I think, barely 9 years, and it was gone. The
Buzier's constitution.
the subsequent
Liman's
constitution.
constitution.
None of them.
Akufo-Addo's father's constitution.
None of them have had the benefit of doing even 10 years. This constitution has done 30 years plus, and we are still counting. Is it not curious that the president who had given or set a day for it's a Constitution Day.
Constitution Day, 7th of January.
Would do things to undermine this same Constitution. At least I've shown you evidence of a rebuke from the Supreme Court. At the time when the Domelevo matter happened, you'd expect people to say, like, we are human, we are wrong. Arrogantly, they were telling Domelevo that, like their counsel say, yeah, can't lawyer for our account. When we are talking about lawyers, you are not one. Keep quiet, shut up, and listen to us. What became of it? What became Ekosi saying? People must appreciate. In fact, as a young politician, there's this story about one great Roman emperor, Marcus Aurelius, that I've written on my heart.
Which is?
Marcus Aurelius had someone around him. And the duty and responsibility of this guy is to always tap him and tell him, remember, you are still a man. The Romans elevated their emperors to God status. They were powerful. They could decide today that you are killed, you are hanged. That's how powerful a Roman emperor was. The people will lift you high and do all kinds. He put somebody that any time I'm going into my lucid moment, tap me and remind me that I'm still a man.
I see. And you say there's nobody to tap the president?
No.
Why would you say that he has advisors? Osafo Mafo is the chief of staff. These are septuagenarians getting into octogenarian ages.
He even has a council of state.
Right. So why would you say a thing like that?
Is it not surprising, rather strange, that the president who has the benefit of the council of states, whose secretary is a lawyer just as himself, will be dabbling in this unconstitutional conduct? Is it not strange?
But people say the Speaker of Parliament also faulted. So
how did he fault? I want to be brought in terms
Lawyer
of
Thatcher says he should eat an humble pie and apologize because he got it wrong.
The president says he was relying on processes filed in court.
And the advice of the Attorney General.
And they are enough to hold his hand. They are enough to dry the ink in his pen, not to assent to the law. That's what the president said. Is it not the case that on the 18th day of March, 2024, Roxanne Tamakloe had issued a writ at the Supreme Court, and in that writ, Relief 9, Roxanne Tamakloe, in his writ, Relief 9, is seeking from the courts an order directed at Parliament to stop the vetting and approval of the ministerial nominees. Is that not the case? Relief 9.
Right.
Is that enough for the Speaker to rely on? Because if he were to rely just on the writ, he wouldn't have gone on to say he's also received. But the Speaker said, he had received an application for an interlocutory injunction. But lawyer, at that time, all that had been received is the writ.
But Relief 9 of the process that the Speaker said he was in receipt of. I just want to...
That's Tamakloe's relief.
Yes.
MP for South Dai.
Yes. Relief 9. I'll just read for the purpose of clarifying this issue. Just 30 seconds. Good. Relief 9.
Urban Lifestyle Radio Station.
An order of interlocutory injunction restraining the Speaker of Parliament, the first defendant herein, from proceeding with the vetting and approval of the names of the nominees of the president submitted to Parliament until the requirement that a minister of state shall be appointed by the president with the prior approval so and so is done. So specific.
Okay. So you mean the principle should have been one.
And this was on the 18th of March. The Speaker's Parliament consideration came, I think, 21st or thereabout. So what's the point?
I see. Let's move away from this one.
You see, I've always maintained this. You see, there is a reason why the US of A will hardly attack Russia.
Why?
Because you see, when you are in Russia, you can see Alaska. In fact, Alaska used to be a territory of Russia until it ceded it to the US. Yes. It was a treaty that was signed. The Russians basically gifted it to the US of A, Alaska. So when you are in Russia, you can see Alaska, right? Good. Now, the US knows that if it deploys its nuclear arsenal into Russia, the Russians are equally capable of returning same fire or maybe more. So in international diplomacy, we call it mutually assured destruction. That is what has kept the two countries at bay. The US, the worst it can do is to apply sanctions. But to go into Russia, it won't take that risk.
How do we relate that to our conversation?
You see, all this while, our president believes that he's the only person who, as it were, is above the law, quote unquote. And that he can do whatever pleases him. And he had been doing that for the past 7 years. Parliament, whether rightly or wrongly, has asserted its authority. Have you seen the nuclear meltdown?
Right.
Have you seen the nuclear meltdown?
Right.
In critical situations like this, and that is why I find the Attorney General's opinion issued, I think, on Thursday, extremely problematic and unnecessary. You see, duty bearers are not learning, unfortunately. You see, our Attorney General doesn't see himself as the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana.
How does he see himself?
He sees himself as a regime Attorney General.
But he's the Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Of Ghana. Of Ghana.
Right.
But this particular Attorney General.
You mean Godfrey Edudzi?
Yes. And let me repeat. He sees himself as a regime Attorney General. We've had a lot of occupants of that office. And I think strongly that that office requires a lot of sober reflection. A lot of, level-headedness. Because you see, the complexities of governance are matters that if you are not careful, you'll mess up. I've heard the majority say that there were issues of tax waivers, among other serious urgent government business pending in Parliament. Now, who is suffering? Absolutely.
The Ghanaian people.
Indeed, yeah.
In
We're
fact,
caught in this impasse.
the saying is that when two elephants fight,
The grass surface.
so when there is an impasse and you want solution, you don't arrogantly write to the speaker. You don't do that. And tell the speaker, Roxanne Tamakloe's suit is void, is this. We do know that under the Supreme Court rules, when you issue a writ, the writ can go alone. 14 days, you can now do what we call a statement of case, setting out the fact and the legal argument.
So it doesn't always have to be together.
No, not at all. You do it alone, you set the reliefs, the constitutional basis. Within 14 days, you can now set the factual basis, and together with that, the legal argument.
So bottom line, the presidency got it wrong.
Absolutely. And you see, in the midst of crisis, the accounts were saying that
In fact, it is a Ghana proverb that's been translated. Adamong me, afamong me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That you cannot be in the red ants
Yes, of thorns.
and
be uprooting.
be trying to
Approaching thorns.
We are in a crisis situation. That's what I say it. And when you have, because I've never seen since 1992 a situation where Parliament had deferred the approval of ministers on the basis of such a thing. In such crisis situation, that's not a platform for arrogance.
Do you think that the Speaker is sending a signal to the executive arm of government to keep off Parliament
Absolutely.
and allow them to be independent?
You see, when Obama came to this country, he said, strong men develop strong institutions.
Right.
I always recommend this movie, Edgar Hoover, how he transformed the FBI. So if you go to the FBI headquarters building, it is named Edgar Hoover. You should watch that movie. The FBI used to be a very corrupt, disorganized, disoriented institution until Edgar Hoover took over the leadership of the FBI and transformed it to what you have today.
I see. Council.
The point should be made. People must recognize the limit to their power, the limit to their influence. You see, the president never saw this coming. They never saw it coming.
That all of Parliament will approve the bill for it to be brought to him?
Even beyond that, that the Speaker would take this extraordinary step.
Right.
He never saw it coming. I think that the way forward, the Executive Secretary to the President should cause him to withdraw that letter.
Will he?
The cease and desist.
Will he?
You see, as human as we are, we must always recognize that we can fault. And when we realize that by reason of our acts or omissions or commissions, A, B, C, D, unintended happens, you should be man enough to say, I am sorry, we are withdrawing this letter. Parliament, A, B, C, D. I don't have a problem. If the president decide that pursuant to his powers under Article 1067, he does not intend to sign the family value bill until a determination from the court. Yes, I'll have my issue with him, but it's within his constitutional remit to refuse that. And when he does refuse, the Constitution provides a mechanism that he must follow. Which one of them was complied with? None whatsoever.
Okay, Council, let's wrap up in 2 minutes. GRA Workers Union have slammed Dr. Baumia over comments on tax collections. Dr. Baumia, I remember Helen said we'll start on a clean slate, right?
That's right.
Clean slate. And then he said that some of the taxes will also be reversed because he doesn't believe literally in those taxes. That should be good news for you, Edudzi, that the Vice President is assuring us that when he gets power, some taxes will be dead news, and that
we should
slate.
avoid desperate politicians.
Oh, Edudzi, please.
We should avoid desperate politicians in the sense that in 2017, this administration passed what is known as the Tax Amnesty Act 2017, Act 955, to provide tax amnesty. Look, it didn't end there. Tax amnesty is in various forms. So you can have a situation where, by reason of penalties imposed on you because you have delayed in paying your tax, the law also allows amnesty or waiver to be given on the interest or penalty.
3FM.
So under the watch of Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, as the chairman of the economic management team, Parliament of Ghana passed this important piece of legislation.
3FM.
The name of the law so passed by Parliament, I just want to reference it for you.
Okay.
And that is why I said we must be careful of desperate politicians.
But why do you describe the Vice President as being a desperate
So we have the Penalty and Interest Waiver Act 2021, Act 1065. This law allows the GRA to give tax waivers. This is the law. Penalty Interest Waiver Act 2021. This law was further amended into what is known as the Penalty and Interest Waiver Act, Amendment Act 2021, Act 1073. This provides the legal basis for tax amnesty and tax waivers. The law exists today. So it is not a new thing. 2, from the time this government came to power, I want to illustrate something. In the year 2017, GRA raised 39 billion Ghana cedis for this government.
Okay.
2018, 47 billion. 2019, 53 billion. 2020, 55 billion. 2021, 70 billion. 2022, 98 billion. Now guess what? In 2023, GRA raised the highest revenue ever, 113 billion. 113 billion Ghana cedi in one fiscal year. In the space of 7 years, GRA alone has raised for this administration 477 billion Ghana cedis.
So,
what you do to the workers of GRA is not to set them up for public ridicule and public opprobrium. What Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in his desperation, has done is to effectively incite taxpayers against the workers of GRA.
oh, why?
You see now, he says GRA are harassing
Yes, he mentioned
poor
that.
taxpayers. Now, if somebody is harassing you, what are you minded to do?
Will you report to the police?
I want to submit that the workers of GRA do not. What they need is actually commendation from this government. In any case, is it not interesting that the GRA officers risk everything, get the necessary taxes for this government, and the president decides to use it to rent luxurious private jets at personal risk?
That record has not been given to us.
We were told that the president, in fact, there were evidence, and they gave the reason why the president was. In fact, the defense minister even said he needed a platform to freshen up, to bath in the sky.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw a cartoon from this same network. But you see,
Tilapia's cartoon.
yes, I always say there is a way to expose a dishonest, lying leader like
But why are you bent on calling the vice president
That is what
dishonest,
it is, and I will show you something.
desperate?
Yes. See, on the 20th of February 2024, Graphic Online push to exceed revenue targets. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, had urged the Ghana Revenue Authority
Mm.
to develop the strategies to exceed their revenue targets, unquote. This is our finance minister. Now, Bawumia says that GRA sets unreasonable, unjustified targets and in the process harasses. Meanwhile, your own finance minister is urging them to exceed their target. Now, guess what? This year, per the 2024 budget statement so approved by Parliament, government targets to raise 175 billion Ghana cedis
From who?
113 billion
From who?
from Ghanaian taxpayers,
The people who are suffering.
approved by Parliament.
Hey.
It has not ended it. The government is going to spend 225 billion Ghana cedis.
On what?
Good question. So, the very government that is putting pressure on GRA to raise 175 billion Ghana cedis is promising you tax waiver. Bawumia is not an opposition leader. He is the vice president of the republic. Has he abdicated the office?
But he has said that he was not given the opportunity.
No,
his
you
role
see,
was advisory.
no, hold on.
He's a driver's mate. He was supporting.
You see, the budget preparatory process involves, but not limited to, cabinet having to review the numbers. It goes to the economic management team chaired by him. What is Bawumia talking about? But you see, like I said, Bawumia has become so desperate that he's willing to even throw his workmen under the bus.
But counsel, this is a genuine concern that's been raised by the GRA staff, right? Their union.
Yes.
They can't see.
In a very extraordinary response to the vice president.
But why would they do that?
No, but it tells you he's putting them in danger. Do you know that as part of the IMF conditionality, the fact that we must raise revenue, who are you raising the revenue with? Is it not the GRA? Now, when you make this reckless, unfortunate statement, are you not demotivating them?
So are you saying it puts the GRA workers in a bit of a conundrum? Because on the one hand, you've increased the target. That means they're going to actually have to ramp up the efforts to get the money.
You have moved it from 113, which was last year numbers, to 175. So it means that they have to raise additional
extra harder, knocking on people's doors, walking into shops.
Additional 60 billion.
And that's going to take some effort to retrieve.
How are you going to do that?
And the vice president says that
now
they're harassing.
Now attacking them as attacking taxpayers.
But
is it not the mark of a desperate person?
But don't GRA staff harass us?
No, who does the work? In any case, where is the evidence of GRA staff harassing poor taxpayers? Look, there is a strong evidence that GRA had tried the tax amnesty and it didn't work. And you know why? You see, the philosophy behind an amnesty is that you don't go and do it again.
Right.
Right. There's strong evidence to show that persons who have received tax amnesty ended up accumulating the same tax. And so GRA then makes the point that they have tried it in the past between 2017 and 2018. It never worked. The number of people that they were expecting who would voluntarily come and submit to the regime never did. All the reason why Bawumia is doing this is that he believes that he can use deception to sway gullible voters. But we have a responsibility to stop him. You see, if Bawumia were to be an opposition leader, that's different. The man is still the chair of the economic management team.
But he says that he would do things differently when he comes to power.
In fact,
you
he's
are
on the
still-
front
He has-
pages
he has
this
said
morning.
that.
On one of the pages,
Yeah.
he makes, and this morning during our review,
So
I think it's the Daily Analyst, Edudzi, the second one. He says something on there that Ghana needs problem solvers with integrity.
That's
He
right.
also says
That's
on the
right.
new find, I think he says, I will be more accountable to Ghana. So we're asking, more accountable than whom?
But
Obviously-
let's make
obviously-
it one after the other.
obviously-
Integrity. There's also a question of integrity. Helen, read that headline again. What does it say?
All right, so on the Daily Analyst, Bawumia says 2024 elections, Ghana needs problem solvers with integrity.
Why don't you believe that he can be a problem solver with integrity?
Under the watch of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, this government had introduced 40 new taxes. How is that problem solving?
But
Hold on.
don't you see the
Hold on.
roads?
Hold
Don't you
on.
see free
Hold on.
SHS?
Hold on.
One district, one factory, one
Please.
village, one dam.
Please.
Planting for food and jobs, rearing for food and jobs.
Please.
Drone delivery service.
I'll take each one of them.
Don't you see them?
In opposition, the NPP said that we're going to move the economy from taxation to production
That's right.
and ended up introducing 40 new taxes, including taxes on sanitary pads. The only offense that the taxpayer is paying is a menstrual process that God has bestowed onto the person. Even that, this government is taxing them. I have I have only daughters. There are things that get to me more directly. A man and a woman, the only thing nature had given a woman is to go through that monthly process.
Right.
The woman needs to be hygienic, needs processes. You have young girls in schools where I attended, in Kwanta Secondary School, I mean, from very deprived areas, say, they are having to wash their sanitary cloths.
And reuse them.
A government that says, or a vice president says that I'm a problem solver, is imposing tax on what is required for the woman to be clean.
But he may have spoken about it, at the cabinet table and said, I don't support it, but majority carries the vote.
Evidence?
We don't
You
have the
and I
benefit of the cabinet minutes.
You cannot tell me that Bawumia has solved our problem relating to education. Where today, in an A-class school like Wesley Girls, people are having to struggle to even get decent food to eat. In fact, there is a secondary school that I'm aware of that the children now carry sugar to their dining hall for breakfast. That for almost 3 months now, they've not taken bread during breakfast.
It's Coco Sakura.
Coco Sakura. How are you a problem solver? How? What problem have you solved? And I've always
But why do you put that blame on the vice president, not the Minister for Education?
I should blame Akufo-Addo or my mother in Kwebe.
Minister for Education is in charge of education in this country, yo.
There's something called collective responsibility. Dr. Mohamed Brania is all over the place saying, oh, I'm the father of digitalization in this country.
Right.
Correct.
He has said that, yes.
Can you approbate and reprobate? In one breath, you should be credited for perceived successes. In another breath, today as we speak, let's look at his claim of being a problem solver. Today, if you needed to bring something outside the country or a dollar transaction, you need 13 cedis, 75 pesos to get $1 from 4 cedis. How are you a problem solver? We were in this country where people's savings, people decided to save in our respective banks. In fact, some of them even purchased government bonds. And do you know what happened? Government of Ghana, as part of its prospectus, put out there that they will be doing daily crude oil production of 500,000 barrels. Investors got convinced and bought our bonds, ESLA PLC bonds, Dache bonds, among other things. Today, this government had to give them a painful haircut. The man says he's a problem solver. What problem have you solved?
He solved
the toilets?
The problem of digitalization. The problem of mobile money interoperability.
First of all.
Why don't you want to give Dr. Bawumia any credit?
First of all.
Why don't you want to give him any credit?
No, first of all.
No, answer my question.
No, I'm coming. First of all, the government itself concedes. Listen carefully. The government itself concedes that when they came to power, they met a contract between BOG and Simpton for interoperability, correct? So you are not the originator. The only thing they did was to review the contract and re-award it to a different person. So when you were coming, once you were in opposition, there was an existing contract. You only came and said, look, per the terms of this contract, I disagree. But somebody originated the idea. It wasn't you.
Okay.
Look, to put matters in perspective. Finally. You see, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia says, oh, I should be credited for, what shall I say, digitalization. You see, I always make this point. There's a nice way of unsettling a liar.
How is that done?
I'll do that. See, this government, when it came to power in 2017, set up a committee, and I want to read state of digitalization agenda. So when this government came to power, they set up a committee chaired by the executive secretary to NI. What's the name?
Ken Atifo. Lawyer Ken Atifo.
Absolutely. I want to read portions of the committee report. Can I do that?
Quickly, we don't have too much time, so we have to be wrapping up at this time.
Just, I beg your pardon to just read the portion. Good. Report of Technical Committee on National Identification Project, March 1st, 2017. The executive summary. I just want to read. The committee undertook a comprehensive tour of the NIA to appraise itself of the capabilities, deficiencies, and level of readiness of the NIA to successfully carry out the mandate. The committee observed that the NIA had collected biometric and demographic data from about 16 million citizens, has uploaded 9 million records into its database, with the remaining stored on compact disk, had processed about 4.7 million of the loaded records, has personalized 2.7 million, and had distributed 900,000. This had already been done before Bawumia became vice president.
So bottom line, he did nothing. He can't take credit.
In fact, what credit? First of all, the law that allows Ghana card to be the sole identity document for various transactions was passed in 2012. The National Identity Registry Act.
Right.
2012.
I remember Ramadan and Nimaku. They were in court over the NHIS.
You remember the Supreme Court matter.
Right.
So I am saying, where is the novelty? You see, we should be ascribing something new to you. Then you say, oh, I have done well. As we speak today, if you are doing every transaction today and it's in dollar terms, you need 13.75 Ghana cedis to get $1. Now get this, shockingly. Is it not strange that at the time that government says it is implementing a gold for oil policy,
right.
A gallon, even let's say a liter of petrol today is almost 15 Ghana cedis for 1 liter. The entire gallon is
4.5
liters.
Right.
So effectively, we are buying petrol under a so-called gold for oil policy at almost 60 Ghana cedi per gallon.
You got Helen.
About 67, as per my calculation.
You got
67.
You got Helen.
Now,
She's not
67 Ghana cedis per gallon. Now, get something. At the time, let's say that the person you are competing with is not a problem solver. At the time the NDC were in power, or was in power, the whole gallon of petrol was 16 cedis. The whole gallon, not a liter. Now a liter is 15 cedis.
But the whole gallon.
That was enough to get you a whole gallon in 2016. You promised people that you were going to make things better for them. They gave you mandates. You moved the entire gallon from 16 to 67 Ghana cedis. What's here also? I mean, like, seriously? And that is why I have made the point that the NPP even presenting Bawumia for election as president is the most insulting thing ever done.
Thank you, Godwin.
And painfully, I've always maintained that the Bawumia candidature is a test of our national sanity.
They're saying same of your running mate, that she's old, so she's go and play with the grandchildren.
Do you know something?
I don't know.
the U.S. will be going into the 2024 election. The front runner for the Republican Party is Mr. Donald Trump.
Right.
He's 75 years and still counting. The current president of the United States of America is over 80 years.
That's right.
Joe Biden. Now, guess what? Bamia is young, correct? Relative to...
No, he's
About 62,
he's
isn't he?
60,
No,
but relative
relatively.
to
Relative,
yes.
that's right.
What has been his scorecard? What has been the impact of his age on the economy?
People need to pay me for this scorecard thing.
No, but you see, you are saying that somebody is old. Now, the relatively younger person, Bamia, what has been his scorecard? I will tell you.
No, we don't have to.
No, 30 seconds.
No, we don't
30
have to.
seconds. Just, no, I beg you, just 30
apologize.
seconds.
Our doctor is in. We have
no,
to. We
30
have to
seconds.
go.
30 seconds.
We have to go.
His scorecard is that today we are doing the debt to GDP ratio almost 75% from 56%. Today, the exchange rate is 13.75% Ghana cedis. Today, inflation, which used to be 15% as at 2016, is now getting to 27-23%. Now, I beg you, this is important.
Your 30 seconds is spent.
Unemployment. As at the time John Mahama was leaving office, unemployment was 8.4%. Today it is 14.7%. Now, even more dangerous, youth unemployment used to be 21%. Today it is 32%.
Thank you very much.
That is the scorecard.
Godwin
So at
Edudzi
this point,
Tamakloe.
age is immaterial.
Edudzi
It's your
Tamakloe
ability
is
to
the director
deliver.
of legal issues at the NDC. We're grateful. And Surat A7 verse 80 to 4, it says, and we had sent Lot